Won't go too deep into it, but essentially there were some interesting articles written in the FT by, I think, Brad Setzer and another economist, basically documenting how Taiwan life insurers are probably some of the richest institutions in the world who've been investing abroad. And essentially, Taiwan is obviously a big global manufacturing hub, semiconductors and all that. But the government and the central bank has a policy of keeping the Taiwan dollar very, very weak. And so to do that, they have to create Taiwan dollar local liquidity, which obviously is the reason why apartments are so expensive in Taipei and other cities. And they accumulate dollars. But they don't want to look bad like currency manipulators to the United States government. So they take all these dollars and they funnel them to the Taiwanese life insurers. And then these life insurers go and they buy bonds and enter in all sorts of structured derivatives with large banks. Essentially, they have a lot of US Treasury bond exposure. And also, a lot of hedge funds like to fund themselves in Taiwan dollar because of this persistent weakness that is encouraged by the government. And then they engage in massive carry trades, create outcomes that they don't like, which is heightened bond market volatility, things going the wrong way. And so if capital controls are going to be phased in over time, they know that they need to replace that buying. Either it's the Fed, it's the Treasury, it's the banking system, it's some other private sector actor that is allowed to create credit very cheaply and therefore replace these foreigners who will be forced to sell these assets.
Stocks have re-correlated with the 10-year yield, and so has Bitcoin. Do you see that correlation holding between these three classes?
No, I think that there will be some risk-off events, and we'll see bond market volatility heighten. I think Bitcoin will sort of assert itself as a hedge against this.
You once said, buy everything, Chai America lives. And then you talk about their breakup. Are they getting married or are they breaking up?
I think they're going to break up over time, but It's not going to be as quick as some people think. Supplemental leverage ratio exemption, I can buy a T-bill and I get to capture 100% of that income. You create mortgages in the US, they will print $5 trillion. You will have probably up to $1 trillion purchased by the banking system due to supplemental leverage ratio exemptions and purchasing things that the foreigners are selling. And I think the banks are going to because they now don't have to hold all this equity capital against their treasury book. They can lend more into the real American economy. And so you're going to see the amount of loans going to manufacturing firms increase, which is, again, that's an increase in credit, and that will make its way into crypto as well.
When the Fed printed a limited QE back in 2020, all asset classes went up. It wasn't just Bitcoin. So this is good news for Bitcoin, what you just said, the thesis you laid out, but it could be good news for everything else, including stocks, gold, potentially even bonds as well. Why would Bitcoin in particular outperform everything else in a
So Bitcoin has a fixed supply. It's obviously a much smaller market in terms of market cap. And so if you have a lot of things, maybe Modon, whatever launches. So these types of projects, these very hyped, big round, big fundraising round projects, it can be very hard for them to go up in price because they don't actually have any clients that spend money. But there are projects that are very good that have product market fit. People spend money. That money goes from the protocol to the token holders, and I think the small subset of products that do that, they're going to do very well.
Pendle,
EtherFi, stuff like that.
Okay, what about all the VC coins from the last cycle? They were doing very well. What happened in this cycle?
I think, again, no product market fit. And again, if you have a very high valuation that you need to grow into and you have no clients actually doing anything on your chain or your product, it's very hard to generate that interest after you've seen the price go down.
And I think in one of your interviews, you said Bitcoin dominance will hit 70%. And then that is...
Solana was at 7 and it went up to 300. If you put all your money in Solana at $7 and sold it all at 300, you definitely outperformed Bitcoin over that time period. So,
But long term, I mean, I'm not that smart, to trade that difference.
Banks offering the same brokerage services. So I think it's going to be very tough for the Coinbases and Krakens of the world to keep their profit margins if JP Morgan is not going to allow their clients to buy Bitcoin.
Speaking of Coinbase, several large exchanges IPO in the last couple of weeks. This sparks a new trend of crypto becoming mainstream in the S&P 500, or Coinbase is listed in the S&P 500. So two-part question. I'll ask the first part first. Do you think now all investors investing in the S&P have to be aware and cognizant of the fact that they're indirectly exposed to Bitcoin through any SPX?
I don't think they care, right? A lot of people are just invested in the index trading because they make so much other money in other places around the bank versus Coinbase offering 0% trading. I don't know I'm not an expert on the Coinbase revenue drivers, but I would imagine a lot of their revenue comes from this very high margin brokerage business that they operate. And so if JP Morgan or Bank of America says it's 0 fee Bitcoin trading, bring your balances here, bring your bank deposits here, well, then what is Coinbase going to do?
Well, okay, so JP Morgan chief Jamie Dimon did say that he's allowing people to buy Bitcoin. He's not going to custody it. If you were to build another BitMEX today, how would you prepare yourself to compete with TradFi entering the crypto space?
On their retirement, how does that square? Are they going to increase taxes because the asset prices of things that boomers own and went down and they can't afford their retirement? So then they're going to tax the young more to pay for their retirement. And are the young going to accept that? I don't know.
What would you guess?
I think there's going to be a lot of intergenerational conflict. I don't know the outcome of it.
What?
But it could be money printing at the end of the day, right? Because it's a very easy way for the government to solve this problem.
Everything leads to money printing.
Basically.
That's the solution of everything.
Does money printing lead to more degen activity, usually?
Yes, price basis. So I think it's just the price is too expensive.
Is it too far-fetched to say that Bitcoin has become an institutional instrument now and the retail crowd is just no longer interested in that?
No, I'm sure there's lots of retail interest in Bitcoin. It's been well performing and it's the easiest one to understand.
Okay.
Go ahead. You spent a lot of time in Asia, and I want to know what you learn from Asia when it comes to money and investment that is pretty much different from the US.
Don't trust the government. I don't think any Asians actually trust their government. And so they're a lot more skeptical of things, and they save in different ways. There's obviously gold.
The local party, like those that I haven't been to. My God.
Okay, well,
impressive.
I guess we both learned something from Arthur today. I'm going to switch it back to markets for just for one more question here. Open interest in Bitcoin futures reached unprecedented levels recently. I think it was, checking my notes, $80 billion on May 22nd, $15 billion increase in just 5 days. It's highlighting just unprecedented leverage. What does this signal to you?
Just more interest in the space, right? Obviously, we rallied up towards all-time high and leveraged. And so this was the impetus to create the perpetual swap. And so we tinkered around with it until we found the product that everyone is familiar with and launched it in May 2016. Most people hated it for a while, but then over time they started trading it because this solved the problem for us because it was very time consuming for us to answer the same question over and over again.
And do you trade perps?
No.
Reason?
I don't usually trade on leverage. If I buy anything, I buy it on a spot basis.
And do you encourage people to?
I encourage people who have the time to spend in the United States. We've identified one target which we're going to be going out with shortly to raise money and hopefully really increase the bottom line of this business.
Can you give us more detail right now?
Actually, I can't yet, but it'll be very clear shortly when we sign this deal.
Well, without giving too much detail, what types of businesses and what kind of operations are you interested in?
So we're interested in businesses that are highly cash flow positive. So the one that we're looking at now makes a very good amount of money, high cash flow positivity, and we're getting it at a very decent price. Liquid stuff, it's really about cash flows for me.
Don't you feel narrative change too quickly? It's very hard to catch on.
It does, but if you pay the right price, it doesn't matter. If you pay a low enough price, if it launches, most likely you'll make money. But if you pay the high price when you're chasing the narrative and trying to be in every single big deal, then that's when you lose money.
What is your favorite Asian food?
Ooh, my favorite Asian food. I probably have to
like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Support the channel by liking this video, subscribing, and enabling post notifications for more content on crypto and digital assets. Check out our other videos and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your engagement helps with the YouTube algorithm and keeps the content coming. Thanks for your support. Enjoy the video.